See, we got more people joining. Great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hasmukh Chudasama. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm the ambassador for Kenya country for the Agile 20 Reflect Global Festival that is ongoing, and is supposed to end at the end of the month, end of February. And today we are going to talk about Agile with a gentleman called Brighton Mwanzia. And I'll ask him to actually introduce himself and we can take it from there.
Thanks, Asmok. And hi, everyone. So my name is Brighton. I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. How much more information do you need me to give?
Yeah, good. That's good. Can tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the world of Agile.
Oh, great. So I'm an Agile practitioner, both certified enterprise agility strategist and IC Agile professional. I started off my Agile journey somewhere mid of 2017. And it's been quite an interesting deep dive every single year, and in continuously learning and applying different projects and different aspects. So I started off practicing it more at a startup level and building tech products at startup level. But in the last 1 year or so, I've been doing it at an enterprise level in a fairly big organization. So that has been my journey. My background is in engineering, but it's also quite evolved over time from engineering to consulting, into risk aspect of it, and now to digital products and innovations. And obviously now in that doing Agile at large. So currently I work for Letsaho Holdings. It's a Pan-African financial institution. We have banks and microfinances across 11 countries in Africa, but indigenously from Botswana. So currently I work with a team in Lean and Agile Center of Enablement. So it's like the team that is tasked with driving enterprise agility across the organization, but also delivering key strategic projects and products in an agile way. So I think that sounds pretty much around my introduction.
Yeah, good stuff. So 2017 is not very far off. It's a couple of years ago, 3 years. Tell us about, you spoke about Agile in startup and then Agile in enterprise. Tell us a little bit about that.
Great.
What do you mean by Agile?
So really, I think our understanding of Agile being a way of doing things or a way of working. But I think for me, really, for those last about 4 years or so, what I've seen Agile being for me is how you build together an empowered team to deliver high value to customers. And one of the interesting observations that I've seen, especially looking at the size of the organization and the structure, and in this case, you've referred to, like startup and a big enterprise. At startup level, because of the way it's structured, the teams are more empowered to make more decisions. There's a lean structure in terms of how you do it. So there's a bit more flexibility around adoption on that level. And obviously, for our case, we were building digital products. So engaging customers from start to the end, through ideation, through testing, through revalidations and such, and feeding that back to improve our product. But then also because it's a lean team, then you also get a very collaborative way of delivering and working within such level. When you look from a bigger enterprise like the one we are at, then it becomes slightly different in approach, because now you have different functions that are way bigger, and a good number of them are still doing the traditional approach, your waterfall sort of approach. So while you're talking about finance, you're talking about HR, you're talking about the rest of the other business functions. With only software development and digital products team being the one probably adopting more agile. So those disconnects making it a bit harder to scale agile, just that understanding of what agile means to different teams and the level of authority to actually deliver on such. So I think I've seen it's quite harder to do that at a bigger organization level, because now there is a more established culture, there are more structured, established bureaucratic, structure, which makes it a bit harder to scale and adopt.
So you spoke about your organization being in 11 countries and all that. So you are driving your agile agenda across all these countries.
Yes.
Is that correct?
So yes, absolutely. So I think so. We've been lucky to have leadership that has appreciated the value of agile, and from the top driving conversation around adoption and implementation of enterprise agility, and embedding that actually in the strategic conversations at the group level. So now it's being rolled out to I think from last year and this year going forward, across all the countries, across all the functions, over and above your traditional IT or software development teams.
Yeah. Typically, leadership recognizes the need for change, but when it comes to taking on that role of driving it and taking the ownership, sometimes it does not happen. How did you manage to convince the leadership to take an absolutely leadership role in driving this? Because there are organizations where this does not happen.
No, that's a good question. I think so. For us, we've been lucky, as you mentioned. It's been more of a top-down approach. I know in different organizations where we've had visibility, it's a specific department that is delivering in agile, and then trying to convince and pushing that upward so that it can be adopted. But I think for us, it's been a bit like on that front. But also, I think one of the things that has really stood out and enabled more acceptance to the change is the ability to actually communicate the value that Agile brings to an organization. So whether you're talking about improving the competitive advantage of an organization in a very dynamic industry like financial services industry where we are at, or if you're talking about making work more visible and managing collaborations and flow of work, which would enable efficiencies and such, which I think different teams begin to appreciate what that means to them and being able to deliver value. But I think also on the other hand, demonstrating the value that customers actually bring to the organization when you actually adopt Agile in a very customer-centric. Because I think if you are able to appeal to the different aspects, different points that you identify with, it becomes easy to tell them that this is where we're going at, and putting people together, obviously motivating them along the journey.
Yeah.
So I think that's what has helped out.
Bringing closer to home, when we talk about Kenya, where are we in that maturity scale, according to you?
That's quite interesting, and so I've not done like a thorough survey around it, but from the conversations I've been having in different communities across the country, I think So both within the country and also across the continent, agile and agility is still a new concept to most of the teams and organizations. I think I saw a report done across sometimes last year, and what one of the things that was interesting is that most of the organizations are under the 2 years of adopting agile. So it's still in the very early years. It's still people are beginning to appreciate more, and I think there's also more focus now of scaling agility beyond software development and digital products to other business functions. But I would say we are still at the formative stages. We are still on the journey of becoming agile.
And are these organizations that are adopting agile, are they largely within the software development sphere, or are we talking about business agility in a larger context?
Actually, very interesting from my observation. Financial service sector is actually adopting more agile compared to the rest of the other practitioners. Even here in Kenya, you can count a number of banks that are actually using enterprise agility. And I think, and of course, the telcos, but I think much more is the organizations that are more heavily reliant on IT and digital products, the enabler of the business. So for those ones, they've been more open and more adoptive of agile. But I think it's way even beyond IT companies or software development companies. Insurances are actually coming up, banks are already and all that.
Yeah. And how do we really sort of exponentially grow this? What do you think needs to happen?
That's a good question. And I think, so one of the interesting conversations that we've been having lately is the challenge that people have been having around scaling Agile. So obviously on one end where we are saying it's still new, people are still getting to appreciate what it is and the value that it's actually bringing on board. It's more than just the buzzword that we are pushing around and having people, use and all that. I think the first initial part of it is, as I mentioned earlier, is being able to actually communicate that value. What does this mean to an organization by adopting Agile? So if you're looking at the perceived benefits, so whether you're talking of increasing team collaborations, or whether you're talking about increasing efficiency in terms of how we deliver and do our business processes, or how we get to enhance customer experience because we are very customer centric and using design thinking approaches to make sure that we have customer from start to end. If we are able to communicate this value in a significant way and be able to actually demonstrate that value, then more organizations, more teams and functions would actually begin considering and exploring this. So I think there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done around awareness and training. Interestingly, though, even in the country and even across the continent, we still have very few practitioners in this space. So you're looking at what we are calling the jobs to be within the agile space. So whether it's Scrum Master, product owner, product managers, and such, we still have very few people in that front. So I think training awareness is something that needs to be done at scale. But then I think on the other side is where we need to begin demonstrating the value we deriving from our adoption of Agile. So if, for example, an organization is using Agile and they're actually being able to identify and deliver value even beyond the normal market segments that they've been working on, exploring more even to the blue oceans, should be able to demonstrate this and create more edge towards that. So I think there's a whole lot of work to be done around those ones. And I think once that is done, at the leadership level, there's obviously where the bigger guidance needs to be done, because if the tone is not set very well at the top, then it becomes very hard to actually scale. And as I mentioned, like organizations like ours who has been lucky because it was top down. As much as there was already a team that was using Agile, but it coming from the top became a significant value. So I think more awareness, more training, but also more strategic push from the leadership is something that would significantly help in scaling it much more.
So look, Kenya is a software development hub. It's quite known for that. We got the Microsoft Africa Development Center in Nairobi, in addition to the one in Nigeria. And we got a big development base here. What I'm wondering about is Agile as a mindset existing there? If it is, or no, if it is, then to what extent? Because how come we are not hearing that so much, isn't it?
That's an interesting question. And yes, Nairobi is the technology and innovation hub of Africa. And I think to some good level, even globally, we have a position. I would say, I think for a very long while, even for software development, we're delivering them on static plans, on very waterfall level. And I'll say it's been working to some level and to some degree. And obviously now, when now begin to talk about Agile and others, it's even the software development industry in Kenya is also beginning to shift towards that. I think one of the other things I would also notice is that where you'd expect the bigger liftoff be done, say within the college institutions and the universities, and exposing people to these concepts, so that then when you are beginning to have developers or practitioners, they already know what these things are, what needs to be done, and they can actually begin implementing and actually scaling it. So I think we are still beginning our journey or growing into adoption of Agile ways. But I think, and I am hopeful, because Kenya is a country that is quite savvy. It's a country that we are known to be very experimental. I think if we were to look at innovation adoption, we are probably among early adopters category or thereabout. So there is a good traction towards adopting these ones. Obviously, more being done at startup level, but as I've mentioned, we now have big banks, we now have telcos actually have implemented these ones, and also running significant trainings to organize to teams and employees to appreciate the value of Agile and actually deliver that. So I think so we are not there. We have a long way to go, but I think we have the enthusiasm and we are already on the course of it.
So look, to reiterate your point, I think we got some very good, nice education institutions that are bringing out some top quality graduates in the space of software development. But in their curriculum, the Agile, focus on Agile or Agile methodologies is distinctly missing in the curriculum. That's what do you think? How can we change that? What can we do?
That's an interesting observation, but I think it's even not just in Kenya or even in Africa. I think generally for a good number of countries globally, the education sector has to some extent lagged behind the practice in the industry, and we are seeing now more push and infusion coming from the industry towards the academic field. I mean, you would notice, for example, if you're talking about data science and in cybersecurity, it's until very recently that local universities have actually begun introducing concepts and courses that actually touch on those ones. Yet you would see like World Economic Forum for quite a while, they've always been publishing, jobs and roles for the future and how to actually prepare the workforce for that future. So I think that's a valid observation. I think one of the things I'm happy about and what I've seen is today, practitioners in the industry are actually taking, leading roles in driving partnerships and content and course developments in the universities. I think it was just this week when Strathmore was launching a course on data science, which is again, a new field in the industry. And we are seeing practitioners from Safaricom, from other organizations, coming in and say this is something we want to help. So I think as practitioners, it's something that we should be, adding value on, taking that leading role and driving those conversations on partnerships and such. But I think also I must also appreciate that even the academia, we are beginning to see leading roles in merging those two industries. I mean, like in Kenya, we have renowned people like Professor Bitangendem, who has been significantly leading, conversations on digital transformation and ICT and innovations, both from academia and practitioner space. So yeah, so there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done around that. But more, I think, for us is building those collaborations and driving that infusion between academia and the industry.
Yeah. What's your view on personal agility and agility as a way of life?
That's quite an interesting one. I didn't see that coming, but I'll tell you a story. So one of my colleagues got a baby, is it 2 weeks ago? And then I think yesterday when we were talking, he was telling me, my friend, these days I sleep in Agile. I sleep in sprints, like 20 chunks of time. And I found that quite fascinating.
Yeah,
so he sleeps in yeah. But I would say really, so if I look at it, it's how do you get to prioritize what you give your time and attention to, and what informs that prioritization? That's, if you're looking at it from a very agilistic way, you're saying you already have a backlog, then how do you get to prioritize your backlog and say you're going to deliver this one and not the other? Because the assumption is you're delivering the one that is actually giving more highest outcome in terms of value. So I would say, that's something you look at it. But generally, how you plan out your life, what you dedicate your time to, and what you prioritize, deprioritize. And their flexibility. I mean, that's Agile. And for some of us, we end up building small Kanban boards of the things we want to do. If I want to, I'm learning to, violin. So one of the things I do, I have a small Kanban that, I say, like, if I dedicate 30 minutes every day, in incremental learning is going to give me and help me become, like
Absolutely.
a player. So yeah, more like it.
Yeah. No, look, I agree with you. It's if you practice it at home, then you can take it enterprise-wide at work. If that's it's a mindset shift, and I think that's the message that I think I was trying to see if you seeing that as well. That it's a very personal thing. It's a way of life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
In Africa, they say that we bypass the telephone and moved directly to the mobile phone. It's a transformative nature. We have, I think there's a statistic, 50 to 60% of population in Africa is under 25 years old. And then you put COVID into the mix, and it's already being seen as an accelerator of the transformation. What are your views on some of these forces, and what do you see, let's say, Kenya in 5 years' time, thanks to some of the activities that are going on, or rather the forces that are going on right now within our continent?
That's an interesting one. I'm sure you've heard what people say. Sometimes you find motivation, but other times motivation finds you. And I think one of the interesting things, and I'm sure it's been circulating on social media last year and this year, is that the biggest driver for digital transformation has really been COVID. You are locked down in Nigeria or in South Africa or or in Kenya or other countries, and certainly you realize the business still needs to continue. You still need to continue serving your customers, and it's where the biggest acceleration that has actually happened. I mean, even looking like even in my organization last year and also this year has been like the craziest work we've done around that acceleration, and actually realize that actually people are able to deliver. Of course, thanks to Agile ways of working, now you can be able to deliver incrementally and still be able to move in a more adaptive way. So yeah, the external contributors have been there. I think for Africa, and one of the beauty I have and the happiness I have about Africa is we do not have I would say that like the legacy infrastructure that would derail our transformation is compared to most of other your developed countries. And you just mentioned the transformation from directly from landline to all the way to smartphones. So I think that's an advantage we have in the continent. So the switch of cost and the technical debt is obviously much lower compared to developed countries. So I think that's an advantage we have. And also looking at the potential that we have. I mean, having biggest young force in DC, the projection that by 2050, half of the young population globally will be coming from Africa. So we already know this. We already excited. We have energy and all that. So I think we are aligned, and Africa is becoming an investment hub. I mean, we've seen lately how your big powers, East, West, they've been scrabbling to invest in Africa, to move into Africa. I've had interesting conversations last year, for example, with investors from different markets in some of these developed world, saying they want to move into Africa, they want to invest in Africa, they want to invest in startups and businesses that are solving meaningful problems in the continent. So there's so much attention towards that, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing because we begin to appreciate the value that the continent has. We begin to appreciate that we have the workforce, we have the expertise, I would say. We may not have the best of the education systems, but I think we are people who learn quite fast if opportunities arise. So I think the future is bright, particularly for Kenya. If I look at it specifically from a digital perspective, and if you look at it even from an enterprise agility and such, I think we are barely scratching the surface. If you look at, for example, Disrupt Africa reports, or we tracker reports on investments that are coming to tech startups in Kenya, in Nigeria, in Africa, they are continuously increasing, meaning that there is more and more people are coming up to actually find solutions to some of our teething problems. So the future is really bright, and I think we are yet to see what potential that the continent and the country has. So I'm really excited. It's quite an exciting time to be in Africa, I'd say.
Yes, I know. Totally agree with you. There's a lot of focus on digital transformation in governments. Kenya is doing, I think, fabulous work in that space in terms of using technology to do in various segments. Do you see Agile being adopted anytime soon? Or is that a tough one?
That's but it's not too ambitious, I would say. I mean, looking at where we've come from several years and now, right now we have, like e-citizen platform, we have you'd say, like government services being offered in digital platforms. I think that's already a good move. But and again, we're also seeing government-backed innovation hubs, tech startups, and all that stuff. We keep talking about Silicon Savannah and the Kansas City and all that. So
Yes.
I think there is that. My observation is that with right leadership at the government level, then adoption becomes a bit easier. Obviously, it's not the same as it is in the private sector, but I think Joe Mosheru and the team are doing significant work around this space, and I think the collaborative work government has been doing with the private sectors and things around that has been quite interesting. We already have Digital Kenya framework that has been developed. We have good regulatory frameworks already in place, like your city practitioners and such. So I think it's a matter of time before we begin seeing now focus towards agility and adoption of agility in terms of how we deliver value. Because I think at the end of the day, we are beginning to appreciate that Agile is a mindset. It enables us to deliver high value in a dynamic industry like the one we are in.
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't bet against Rwanda being the first country in our region taking up, because they're doing some very, very nice, cool stuff with technology in government.
Yeah, no, Rwanda has been. Sorry, no, I was saying Rwanda is giving Kenya sleepless nights,
Yeah. Absolutely, it's nice.
People say in Kenya we talk about it, Rwanda does it, but I think it's a good move. It's a healthy complement. I would say more than I would look at it as competition, because I think a success of Rwanda is success of Africa, it's success of
absolutely. Look, it's East Africa. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what happens is one country sees something good is happening, then obviously let's say, okay, let's figure it out and let's do it as well.
Yeah.
So it's,
even if it means to copy, as long as it works, right?
Yeah. So Brighton, what is I wanted to in fact ask you earlier that it's all sounds like very smooth sailing in your journey to agility, but you've not spoken about some of the negatives or the challenges that you faced. So I think it would be good to highlight those unless you do have any challenges at all.
At a personal level, in terms of the agility journey.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So I mentioned, so from mid 2017, I think, yeah. So part of 2017 and early 2018, it was really the immersion. So like there's a million and one buzzwords coming, thanks to Agile KE community, for example, that I've been running interesting conversations for a while, and exposing the rest of the community to the practice and people sharing their experiences. So I think that has significantly helped. But I think from a practicing perspective, the challenge has always been the siloed way of working. So one team is delivering projects, products, it's working on stuff in an agile way, but then you're dependent on other functions or other teams that are not. So for example, you're talking of agile financing, and your finance team is giving a static budget, but then you on the other hand, you're doing more explorative approach towards delivering particular projects of value. Then it becomes quite a hindrance. So those ones have been there. And I think one of the other very interesting one I've seen is when you're working with external parties like your vendors and they are not agile, then it becomes a significant blockage and impediment. So I think those have been the bigger challenges. But I think obviously on the other side is accepting the fact that change takes time to stick. And those incremental units of learning and awareness continuously, help you scale, help you become better, and grow. So my journey has not been as super smooth, but I would not say that it has been very hard. And I think I've also been lucky to be in an organization that is adopting Agile, so it becomes even easier to plug in, to practice, to scale.
What would you say to a university student who has just graduated and is thinking, what is Agile? What do I do? What is this? What is it all about? What would you tell him or her?
I think the first part will be like buckle up. It's going to be a rough ride. Yeah, but I think so. Whether it's a graduate or someone who is still in school, I think the first part, obviously, is to say, if you are a student and you are preparing yourself for the industry, it is very important to know what is happening in the industry. You do not want to come with very irrelevant skills and you cannot plug in. Fortunately or unfortunately, within the industry, people want you to deliver results. So I remember seeing a meme where someone was recruiting and saying, for you to do this work, you need to have experience. And then someone is saying, but I need this job to learn the experience. You're like, yeah, go get experience. But then it's like, then give me this job to get the experience. You get the, yeah. So I think that's a reality we have. So getting to plug in communities, and I think the beauty of Kenya, for example, is that we have practicing communities. So they are talking about the Nairobi Business Transformation Team, talking about different like Agile KE, you are talking about like different ecosystems and different communities. That then brings you together to people who are practicing, people who are more seasoned in the field. You get to plug in, get to learn what is happening. And then now from that perspective, then you can begin to map out and to now begin your journey in that front. So if you're a newbie in Agile, I think the first part of it is to understand what is this whole Agile buzzword business and why is it important. And then you're a student, you're looking for work, then what are the jobs to be done? What are the jobs for the future? Fortunately or unfortunately, when you're talking about digital transformation on the other end, you're talking about agile ways of working and delivering on those ones. So whether you are a practitioner a legal practitioner, whether you are a finance guy or you're a guy in HR or you're a guy in whichever practice, it's a mindset. It's a way of working. It's a way of building value and delivering that value to a customer. So starting off from that lift off.
Yeah, spot on. True. Good. Thanks, Brighton. I'm going to got another 10 to 15 minutes. I would like to, we got a lot of people across Africa on our call, and I'm sure they'll have a thing to say about whether it's going to be Nigerian government or is it Ghana government that's going to adopt. Actually, Ghana police has adopted Agile. I saw it the other day.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So I'm sure people will have comments and questions around what we just discussed. If anybody would like to go first. Let me just see.
I just have a quick question to ask.
This Dennis?
Yes, so I've been attending a lot of these sessions in the Agile 20 Reflects, and there's a session where we were with a presenter from Ghana who actually said that he has embedded Agile inside part of the government. Are we seeing a reality of that actually happening in Kenya? That we will reach a point where we will embed Agile in the government? Because if I'm not wrong, he works in the Ghanaian Port Authority, and that's where he has actually done that. Plus, Grace can correct me if I'm wrong, there's still the Ghanaian police are also have embedded Scrum in whatever they're doing.
Yes,
So we have a
yes.
product owner who's now the chief of police. Yes. So are we seeing a scenario where that can actually happen with venye tunajijua? Ourselves.
Well, I think the question should be, Dennis, is how can we make it happen?
No, I think
What do you think?
I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic. Maybe looking at it even from a very selfish perspective. The fact that Kenya is not as a tech hub in the continent and such. So obviously, we would not want to be left behind in some of these interesting developments. So if Rwanda and Ghana have, governments have already taken on Agile, then I think it's going to happen. But I think much more in terms of what we can do. We already have people and teams and professionals work in the government who are actually part of our communities. Our ecosystem. So how do we begin to drive those conversations even with them? How do we begin to help them to actually deliver and communicate this value to the government? But I'm very hopeful. I think it will happen. It may not happen this year or next year, but I think it's something likely to happen. I mean, we've been talking about startup bill. So yeah, there's quite hope, Dennis. But for us, I think it's just beginning to to drive those conversations to demonstrate value that our teams and organizations have harnessed from adopting Agile, and hopefully we are going to see adoption.
Yeah, look, typically governments do talk to each other. If there's some best practices happening in certain areas, then there'll be a delegation from another country to come and see, all right, guys, how are you doing it? Let's see. So I think that I would see that if something is happening in the Ghana police and they are doing something quite successfully, I think it's a matter of time before somebody else notices and says, let's go and see what these guys are doing. And that's how knowledge spreads.
And I think would be interesting also to hear how this is actually working. And I think Jeff could give us that insight he shares that. I think it would be interesting to hear how that is working out, and maybe we can borrow a leaf from there as well.
Yeah.
From what he says, I guess they've actually done it it's been more than a year, if I'm not wrong. So, and the results are actually okay. So, yes, but something I noticed, the guys who are driving all that were in the government. So it might be hard for us civilians, us jumping in, telling the Ministry of Lands, oh, let's use Bitcoins. I mean, let's use the whole blockchain and, become digital, use Agile. It might be hard for us per se, but if we get buy-in from, or the way I can say it, if we get Agile champions in the government, then they can actually now drive it. Grace, you were saying something before I cut you off. Sorry.
No problem. I think I'm usually very skeptical of especially African governments when they decide to pick up a probably concept or a framework or an approach or a policy and try to adopt. And then over the years, you see that the process gets corrupted. Sorry, my kids are at the background. What I'm most optimistic about is that what I'm taking out of Agile 20 Reflect is that all of us here are able to create communities, and we can always begin from there. I think when we begin to have disciples, more and more disciples, begin to enlighten them on a better way of work, a better way to approach, whatever we are doing in every of our sectors, and the mindset begins to change. We begin to have people that begin to demand better of government. you know. And so maybe one day when they come to do a campaign close to us, we begin to ask them, have you heard of Agile? Would you be willing to accept something that basically decentralizes control and puts, you know, the power in the hands of the people? I believe that's what Agile is all about. And what has really drawn me to Agile, being a project manager myself, is the fact that that control has been, you know, decimated, and everybody has an equal opportunity to have a say at the table. So what my drive is always, let's get communities going. Let's get. I hear her smoke a lot talk about university graduates. That's a passion. When you begin, if you're able to throw the light in that direction, I believe you me. Those people coming out of the universities are capable of doing, you know, extraordinary things. You see the protest that went on in Nigeria. It was solely engineered, initiated by youths. So if we are able to begin to enlighten communities and begin to encourage them and teach them how to collaborate, and they see the light, they will demand better of those people in authority. That's sorry.
Absolutely. I mean, we can approach universities and ask them for a 1 hour slot on a Saturday morning or a Friday afternoon to talk to, or put up, you know what they call, put up a demo stand somewhere outside near the canteen, and we just talk about stuff. I think those are the kinds of things that will bring a lot of change, isn't it?
Agreed. No, I think so. Like, so from the tech space, I mean, we've been doing your hackathons, we've been doing datathons, and the rest of workshops with universities and even with high schools. So I think that's something that can actually be done. I mean, today we are having more informed graduates and even students, and we even have students who are running like serious startups, even at high school and
Yes.
in college level. So I think that's something can help. But to Grace's point, in our communities and even here in Kenya, if we have more champions coming from the government and parastatals, then it becomes easier to infuse this internally. So yeah, I think the power of community would help a great deal.
Yeah. I think its look is largely about igniting a spark. You know, it's about that. It's about starting that thought process. And once you start that thought process, then people will say, okay, what is this and what is more? And then you've set it up. You've set it up in motion. People will research it and find the books they need to read. And before you know it, in a year or two, we have a big colossus of a movement going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks. Anybody else has a comment or a question? Anybody else has an idea of what we can do?
Is Brighton in the government by any chance? So that we can assign him that task.
The closest I get to government is some work I do with the ICT authority. I work with some of the disciples in the PDTP program, the Presidential Digital Talent Program. So I get to mentor some of the ICT graduates. So yeah, so it's something I can start from that front. But I'm in the private sector. And I think one of the other things that in the country you would know is that we've been having many collaborative events and conversations with guys from the government. We've had meetings with guys from the Ministry of IT, guys from different parastatals. So there's already willingness in that front. So if we begin to drive those conversations, even at those levels, then I think it's going to become an easier journey in terms of adoption by the government. But I'm optimistic. I mean, I may not be extremely ambitious in terms of it being like this year, next year, or thereabout. But I think it's something that is going to slowly get infused as you go along. I mean, because even at the private sector, we still have a long way to go. So yeah, so let's keep moving the needle an inch at a time.
No problem. Ideally, it's just baby steps. So the main reason I was asking is if you have your own circles that you're actually interacting with and all that, and they are okay with Agile, then that's actually a plus on your end. And having that now the community has actually grown, we can get guys from SA, guys from Ethiopia, we have Chichi here from Zambia, we can now get buy-in from so many people to just bring in whatever is needed, just to spearhead everything. So okay, we shall wait and see, but let's be actionable. Asmok, I know we have so much to do after this festival, so yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. We are champions, so that's what champions do.
Yes, we have a comment from Sarah. She's saying, thanks for the wonderful conversation. I think we just need to start with awareness, then we all sell the value. And like Brighton says, even in private sector, we still have a long way to go. Let's have more Agile events. And Koki Agile Kenya. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's we just need to continue. I think these are the kinds of events. If we continue doing them, I think it will add up to something interesting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. If there's nothing else, is there anybody else who has a comment or a question? If not, we can bring this session to a close. Thank you so much, Brighton, for taking the time. I hope you are enjoying the festival. We still on until the last day of the month. Yeah, it's been a marathon of events and last few days. So to everybody on the call, please try and make the remaining events. There's a whole calendar on the website and some very interesting sessions going on. Lots of sessions that have happened. I think from what I'm hearing, 500 plus sessions have already happened and they're being archived on the site. So you can actually have a look at them. I got a session happening on Friday again, which is my last session of the festival. And we're going to talk about how we can adopt the Agile mindset with some speakers from South Africa. So please find the time if you can to attend those and take care. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Brighton.
And Grace is there's going to be a closing party, and I hope Grace is going to be an actual party, like real food.
No, you're talking about food.
And
Eat
snacks,
food.
and some fufu and banku.
Yes, fufu and banku and Nigerian jollof, not Ghana jollof, please.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
everyone.
All right, guys.
It's been fun having
Bye.
the conversations.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.